We'd had poetry, we had faith, now we have politics. I'd like to thank Senator Raptakis for coming all the way in.
Pleasure to be here.
From District 33 to talk politics here in the studio. It's great to get members on the off days when you're not in to talk about everything that's going on up there. One of the things I wanted to talk with you about, we'll kind of move to the number 2 slot because it's kind of all POSOX all the time right now. Senate Finance just approved it. Going to the full Senate, what do things look like up there?
This coming Tuesday, matter of fact, we're going to be voting on this legislation Tuesday. And again, because it is a budgetary issue, I believe you need 2/3 of the senators present to pass this. So the cutoff point is probably going to be 24 to 12. If it's 24 to 12, means it passes. If it's anything below 24, probably going to have some serious consequences on that proposal. Plus, it sends a message to the other side of the aisle, the House of Representatives, to say, look, there was a lot of debate, and there are folks that are still concerned, me being one of them, that I still don't think that we should be taking taxpayers' money to fund, again, a private entity, which we know that the Boston Red Sox is a very wealthy entity. So times like this in Rhode Island, I believe that I don't care how much the money is, I think it's not a good idea to have taxpayers fund that proposal. And then again, as presently as we know today, there's also a proposal of putting this out to the public as a voter referendum. I mean, where does that go? Problem with that, not that I'm in favor or against, you got to make sure you have the specific, correct question that the voter knows exactly what they're voting. If you ask a question, should we fund the POSOX, they might say no, but it depends. They have to know the details. And that's the problem where we normally get problems with these voter referendum. Unless it's specific and the voter understands what the question are, what the cost is going to be, then they can make a good decision whether yes or no.
Where do you think the POSOX stand right now on the current legislation? And would they be open? Would they start pouring money into a campaign if it was a ballot item that they had to really sell it to the voters?
Again, that's hard to tell, because are they ready to depart Rhode Island? Are they just playing brinkmanship to see how the legislature is going to move on this question? There's a lot of unknowns, but I believe having all the hearings that we had a quick Senate Finance Committee vote. I was surprised that it only took 30 minutes. I thought it was going to be a longer debate. For those individuals, those taxpayers, those citizens of Rhode Island that didn't have the chance to go around and have that opportunity, at least coming to the State House, again, it's their last chance to testify on the merits of the POSOX Stadium.
And what are you hearing from your constituents?
Not supporting it. A lot of folks are against it. They love the POSOX, but look, we had 38 studios. It's just one issue after the other. By putting money aside, $28 million, $23 to $28 million, it's not pennies, serious money. You can put that money back into school buildings, into school construction, road improvements, a lot of issues. You can take that $28 million and use that for a good cause.
So we'll see come Tuesday, again, that vote. Why don't you sort of parse it? You broke down the numbers. You heard it here, again, how it has to pass. You believe with 2/3 again for that because it is a spending measure.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe because it is a spending measure, that's why it's very important to get that many votes. And again, if it's tighter, it's going to send a strong message to the opposition and to the other side. Because I know on the other House of Representatives, talking to my colleagues, that there is a lot of questions. And even the Speaker coming out today in the media, his, again, more concerns, and then putting it out, the question is coming out, putting it out to the voters.
Do we get a sense? I mean, we do know the Speaker's indicated he wants to see it to the voters. So is it a moot point if we see this move forward on the Senate side, if they sort of take that step back, then what? The House has to introduce a measure that then goes to the Senate side to put it on the ballot?
What happens is the legislation that comes over to the Senate side, to the House side, could be amended and it could be sent back to the Senate side. But here again, it's only January, and the Speaker has also said, I'm not in a hurry. So you might not see this POSOX vote till June, till the last days of the General Assembly.
We've seen what happens with political footballs before.
There'll be horse trading, as usual, and that's what happens in Rhode Island.
We've seen what happens with the football. We saw it with the end of the session last year. I don't think it was much of a surprise that they took it up right away, given the fact that all of the hearings took place in the fall. That, granted, the legislation was introduced at the waning days of the last session, but I think folks were prepared for them to act so soon.
Right, and then you have the other issue about Worcester coming into play, another play. Look, let them come into play. We'll take our time. We'll make a good decision, whatever it is. we don't want to be pushed around. If they want to go to Worcester, tell us right now so we don't waste our time.
Plenty of other things going on up at the Assembly, one of which, line item veto. Going back again to introduce legislation, one of only 6 states that doesn't have?
6 states. It's
6 states.
Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Vermont, here in New England, and North Carolina, Nevada, Indiana, and the rest of the country that do not have it.
Is this, we see activists in the community, we see ex-gubernatorial candidate Ken Block making it his issue. Do you think the public understands the enormity of the issue?
In somewhat they do, because here's the big question. I'm very surprised that I've been putting this bill in, I believe it's the last 3-4 years in a row. Hopefully this year it might be the time that it's going to pass. But the issue here is those in the Assembly that are opposed to it, I don't get it, because when the governor vetoes either the budget or vetoes a bill, we can override that veto by 3/5 majority in each chamber. So what's the big deal about giving the governor that opportunity? Here's the problem. You got other states, and I'll give you an example, Wisconsin. Wisconsin, I believe they can veto, they can change, if it's $25 million appropriation, they can take one number out and make it $5 million. Or they can take a word, they can delete language and changing the whole concept around. So I think you got to be very careful how much, when you give a line item veto to the governor, we have 44 other examples to look at to make that difference. So we caution again, but I think it should be put up to the voters this coming November. That's it, time out. Give it to the voters. General Assembly, you had your say. Let's have the voters turn and explain it to them thoroughly. They'll understand it. And again, if the governor vetoes a portion of the budget, we, the General Assembly, can come back 3/5, override her veto on a line item and become law.
So let's talk a little bit about what's going up out there before we go to the district, the really nitty-gritty, down and dirty politics. But one other piece of legislation you wanted to talk about was leaving children in vehicles.
Right. That's another issue, dear. Perfect example. Hot weather. 2 vehicles in a Walmart parking lot. One has an animal, one has a child. If the temperature's over 90 degrees, the child or the animal is left there unattended for so much time, police officer arrives, first responders, police officer can fine the vehicle with an animal up to 1 year in jail and up to $1,000 fine. It's a misdemeanor. The vehicle that has the child left alone under 7, it's only verbal warning. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. General Assembly colleagues, let's get this bill passed. There's also talk about legislation a couple of days ago about if there's a child in a vehicle while somebody is driving and is intoxicated. They want to throw the book. They want to make it a felony. What about leaving children unattended in a vehicle? And this year, we've tweaked the legislation to allow police officers and first responders to make that decision, analyze the situation when they arrive, and determine whether there should be a monetary fine or charged as a misdemeanor.
So has that really been sort of the hurdle, the backlash, if you will, that some folks say, oh, it's a case-by-case basis, but for any amount of time, what is the rationale for
Sure, and that's why
passing this legislation?
And this year, it's important that we allow first responders, police officers to determine that decision, not us as lawmakers, but yeah, I think hopefully it's going to pass this year.
Okay. Another important piece of legislation up there. But in District 33, there is a lot going on.
Plenty.
The gun range. What's going on?
We have a proposal of a gun range. Now, Coventry does have an indoor gun range. No problem whatsoever. Everybody's satisfied. They abide by all the rules and regulations. Nobody has said anything about it. It's been there for at least 5 years. All of a sudden, we got a proposal of an outdoor range near an elementary school, near homes. I've got a problem with that. I don't want to take the chance. I don't care what the developer says, state-of-the-art protection, safety. No, we're not going to take the chance. We have children that attend that school. We have parents that visit that school, residents that live in the area. We're not going to take the chance to have one mistake where someone could be injured, and we don't want a life-threatening situation. It does not belong there. And what's interesting is there was something similar in North Carolina where a gun range in a 500-acre tract got defeated. And North Carolina is a very important state that is probably pro-NRA, and it got defeated there. So I think a gun range belongs way out in the country. There's a gun range out in Exeter. no problems whatsoever. Keep it away from elementary schools and residents. We're not going to take that chance.
Again, how close to schools and residences is this proposed?
It's about, look, there's a lot of issues with noise. I believe it's about a mile away. But let me tell you something. It doesn't matter if it's a mile away. You've got caliber bullets that can travel 2 miles. Noise. Are we going to start scaring children while folks are shooting off their rifles and the noise? There's a quality of life involved. So I believe that looking at all the evidence, I'm opposed to it. I know my colleague, Representative Serp, is opposed to it, and many of the Coventry members of the General Assembly are opposed to it. So it doesn't belong there. Strong message to the developer. It's been already delayed once, twice, 3 times. I hope the final delay is permanent and it doesn't go any further.
Do we have a sense on time frame? When's the next?
Well, it was supposed to be Wednesday night.
Yeah.
It got delayed again because of the developer was ill. Now we're probably not looking till April.
Oh, wow. A few months here between here and there.
And the other issue too, is Coventry, we get 2. We get the sewer issue.
The sewer issue.
Oh, that's another one. There's a lot of publicity on that one. A lot of outcry because here's a system, $23 million for only 600 residents or businesses. Doesn't make any sense. It went from a 6,000 fee of a sewer tie-in, a fee, to $32,000. What is going on here? It's out of control. The General Assembly we've had enough. We went to so many meetings. The town council still doesn't get it. They just hired a consulting company to consult, not to audit. So all 8 members of the General Assembly are asking the Auditor General to do a forensic audit. I think that's very important. Look, if there's nothing to hide, like the town manager said, that's fine. We want to get to the bottom of it. Why so much money was spent, and why? And I refer to it as a Ponzi scheme, because what they're doing is they're increasing the sewer assessment fee, and they're not getting anywhere. There wasn't a master plan to say, let's do the commercial base, let's do these streets that really need it. There wasn't a grand master plan. It's a pick and choose. We got one neighborhood on one side of Coventry, all of a sudden another side, a neighborhood. It doesn't make any sense. Not a very well thought out process, especially where it's going to cost thousands of dollars to homeowners, especially some of the needy, some of the elderly. We've got an elderly person, $90,000 home. She's going to pay $32,000 in sewer assessments. How?
That seems nearly impossible. But is the next hurdle for you then to get the Auditor General to take a look at it?
It's already in. The letter has already been sent to the Auditor General on Wednesday by email, by regular mail, and it's ready to go. We're just being all 8 members and 2 members of the town council that signed on to the letter. I think we're going to get, it's a serious issue, and I believe hopefully that the Auditor General will take a look at the evidence, look at the facts, and go forth with this audit. And he's audited cities and towns before. It's not just state entities.
So not reinventing the wheel over here, but you want him to take a look at these numbers.
Correct.
What else is on the docket, Senator, moving forward that you want folks to know about while you're here in studio?
I think that's on my docket. I mean,
we cross off every issue.
Exactly. We've covered a lot. But I think basically the other question is the budget.
Yep.
I mean, we're looking at a $200 million deficit. You know, you can look at, again, where is minimum wage going in the future. We know right now it just went up to $10.10. It's going to go to $10.50 next year. Again, keeping small business in Rhode Island. They are the backbone of this state. And let's work with small business, not to harm them, not to move out of Rhode Island, encourage them to stay, bring more in. And I think those are probably a lot of the issues. Budget, minimum wage, again, like we said, the Paw Sox, line out of veto. Drunk driving is another one. We've had an increase in drunk driving, and that's serious. We got to get serious with package. I got another package of DUI bills. Get serious. Don't let somebody get behind the wheel that's been already convicted of a DUI on a suspended license. I have one bill. Guess what you do? You catch them, you pull the license off the plate of the vehicle. Can't use the vehicle. I don't care if it's a vehicle used in the family or you borrow the vehicle. You can't drink and drive after you've been convicted, arrested, caught, and convicted. That's hard to do in Rhode Island. So basically, we're going to have to get tough on DUIs. Too many out there in the streets. Too many innocent victims are being hurt. We lose too many people in the state of Rhode Island, and that's unacceptable.
Final question for you while I have you here, Senator. Is marijuana just sort of dead on arrival right now, especially from what we're seeing in Washington, D.C.?
The
with DC, with marijuana, with what Sessions was saying, with the feds having the ultimate
again, that is
say.
something that I think we're really gonna take a look at. I know there's ongoing hearings, but again, it's an issue that we gotta really analyze it. I know Massachusetts voters agree to it, but again, Rhode Island, it's in our community. It's gonna affect us directly. Take it step by step. I'm a little bit cautious on whether to legalize marijuana.
Well, there's still a study commission going on right now.
Correct. We should get a report back. I believe it's going to be mid-April. They should be concluding those hearings.
So we'll continue to keep an eye on that, but all eyes on the Senate next week with the Paw Sox.
This coming Tuesday.
You'll pay for the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge of it. Senator Raptakis, I appreciate your
Thank
taking
you.
the time to
Thank
come
you.
in. I'll let
Absolutely.
you go back to the task at hand, and we'll be back right here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center.